Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining us again. I'm Chris,
I'm Lauren.
and this week we want to talk about education. We want to specifically get into learning theories and learning methods, why as teachers, future teachers, it's important for us to know different methods and theories and apply them in the classroom for student development. We also want to touch upon brain development and new research in brain development, specifically in adolescence, because I believe Laura and I both plan to teach adolescent, middle school, high school students. So it's going to be important for us to understand what's going on in their brains and all that. So, and I think being an effective teacher, we need to use multiple teaching strategies and methods in order to accommodate diverse classrooms. I think students are definitely going to have different strengths, weaknesses. Some may even have limitations. And I think we need to be conscious of that those are going to exist in our classroom and how we approach that. What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, I think you're right on track there. When I think back about the certain educators that made an impact on my life, whether it be just through their lessons or just the way they treated us, they all had a certain something special about them, and that's certainly something that we want to bring into our teaching methods. So let's explore how they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these people, they probably base their teaching methods on various learning theories. Did you know there's a lot of different theories out there and psychologists that have helped teachers better understand student development?
Oh, okay. So you mean like Skinner, Thorndike, let's see, we've got Dewey, Piaget, even Vygotsky?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but we also have Kohlberg and Erickson, and they concentrate on behavioral and moral development.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely remember we had quite a few teachers growing up that kind of mimicked that Thorndike or Skinner-esque behavioral approach. They usually lectured on, and I mean, I got really good at note-taking through their courses, but I don't know if I retained as much, except for during test time when we got rewards if we did well on a test.
That was always nice. However, I don't know how well rewards always work. I know we want to touch back on Kohlberg and his moral development theories. I think that students doing something out of fear because they're told to do something or because they're going to get some kind of reward, that's level 1, level 2 thinking, moral thinking. And I think that Kohlberg and as teachers, we want our students reaching more 4, 5, and 6 level thinking where they're approaching things, making decisions, and thinking because it's good for them and because it's good for society, and they just know that it's right, not because they're going to get a reward.
Oh, that's a really good point. I guess one of the ways that teachers can do that is when they kind of adopt those constructivism approaches. We've got Vygotsky and then the early ideas of Dewey that really really portrayed like social constructivism. And with these ideas, teachers can utilize hands-on projects, group work, even reflective journal writing. I know that any of the classes that I had that kind of utilized this constructivist idea, I was always way more engaged.
Me too. I definitely agree with that. And I think that each child learns differently. I think this is one of the most important reasons why teachers need to understand the psychology of development and the different learning theories, being able to kind of put them together, sometimes use one theory a little bit more than the other, depending on the student, depending on the classroom situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Speaking of learning differently, I know that when I'm cooped up in a classroom like this one here, my brain starts to zonk out, and I just get kind of sleepy, and I lose focus, and I think that we should switch things up now.
I agree. What do you think about heading outside?
Outside?
All right. Well, we're heading outside if you guys want to join us.
Come on.
Oh.
This is nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really feel more creative out here. We got the grass and the leaves and river behind us, and really makes me want to sing. I mean, I feel like nothing gets me more in tune with myself, feeling more creative, and able to learn than through music.
Yeah.
How about a song?
Let's do it.
All right. Don't you want to find excitement in what you learn and what you do? Interacting with your friends to share ideas is helpful too. Sure beats listening to teachers whose instruction can be dry. Plus a lecture is so common and expected half the time. Skinner likes to give you carrots to listen closely and follow rules, whereas Dewey does one better and finds the motivation in you. The ultimate accomplishment and gift to give to you is allowing you to grow and choose your own path to pursue. We all know of countless teachers who choose the PowerPoint to prove that they can give you information and then a test to get you through. But are we really learning anything of the world we're thrown into unless we're actively involved in the learning process too? This means learning from each other. Our peers can educate us too, especially when guided by our favorite teacher's cues. Wow,
Yay!
that was awesome.
That was great.
See, doesn't it make you just, I don't know, loosen up, feel better, really start to think about everything more? I don't know. Music is just an incredible tool. Well,
music and being outdoors. You know, I think that I'm definitely going to try to take my students outside as often as I possibly can. I think it just energizes your brain. I think there's something to be said for taking a kid out or a student class out and giving them a problem and having them come up with a solution using the tools that nature has to offer. You know, it really requires critical thinking and definitely a lot of teamwork.
how very social constructivist of you.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the idea of lecturing, PowerPoints, tests, quizzes, I think that these are definitely part of any educational curriculum that's needed to get a lot of information out to a majority of students. I think sometimes it's inevitable, but that being said, it doesn't allow for every student to open up to find their creativity, their niche, strength, I guess is a better way, their strength of learning. So I think that finding ways to engage the mind, whether that's, like you said, going out through music, being outside, interacting with nature, or just allowing peers to learn from each other, bounce off ideas from each other can be much more beneficial to them than just listening to what I have to say. Yes, I might know a little bit more about what I'm talking about than they do, but that doesn't mean they're making the connections. If I'm just giving it to the information to them, they might make many more connections or have better ideas with each other. So
Connections.
that's important.
I think that what you're saying, like connections, to me is the biggest part of being a good educator. Is helping students connect what they're learning in their classroom, wherever their classroom is, and kind of being able to apply those lessons to their everyday life and to the world around them. And so that means, as educators, we really have to do our best to try to include cultural diversity and try to reach out to each individual in our classroom and make our lessons kind of adhere to them, just to kind of spark that interest and get them more engaged. Hammond and Feinstein both talk about the importance of relationships, and building these relationships is just allowing yourself to connect with them, and having those connections are hugely important, because as we know from Feinstein, that students, if they associate school with a negative self-concept, they can actually close the gate of learning, and that's absolutely not what we want to do as educators.
Yeah, we don't want that at all. I remember back in school, I definitely when I was younger, middle school, grammar school, I felt like I was out in the community doing a lot more, engaging my brain. I feel like high school I might have slowed my creativity down a little bit in my progress in a lot of different subjects. So I think the environment had a lot to do with that. So learning theories and the methods and knowing them all as best we can so we can apply them, I think is really going to be big for us as teachers in terms of diversity and in terms of getting out to the students who don't learn as well in the traditional, lecture test kind of environment. But again, I do think that that's important, and I think that Sandrock, Hammond, Feinstein, I think they have a lot to say, and we have a lot to learn.
Definitely. That kind of reminds me of another song that I wrote, and this kind of goes along the lines that, again, everyone needs to learn differently, and creating fun, maybe musically related lessons will help.
Well, you know me, I love music.
What constructivism lacks in lyricism makes up for in the quest for students' cognitive development. When we teach lessons that are relevant to the lives our adolescents are leading, we integrate culturally responsive teaching. Engaging kids with hands-on lessons plans, spark synapses in the brain to last a lifespan. And our brain plasticity will help us learn, even when we're 103.
All right. Short and sweet, that's what I like.
Just a short little guy.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, so, I mean, within that song I kind of talked about sparking the brain synapses and our neuroplasticity. Neuroscience is cool. Such a cool subject, and we're fortunate that we keep learning more and more on the brain, every day. Neuroscientists are really doing their best to kind of help us as teachers understand where our students are coming from. This is so important for teachers. We need to understand, especially adolescents, what their brains are going through, because sometimes adults expect too much out of students, or maybe expect too little because they're not quite adults yet. And I think sometimes when we expect too much and we push really, really hard, a student might just shut down and say, you know what, this is all too hard for me, I don't want to learn, school's not for me. And then similarly, if we don't expect enough out of them, and if we kind of just teach lower than what they might be capable of, they might think, oh, well, school is boring and I don't need to be here.
Yeah, I really think that it's important to remember that we were adolescents once, and remember how it is developing at that time. And we know now that the adolescent brain is really just trying to forge those connections and find, their own path, their own identity. And I think it's important to understand this and put ourselves as adults in their shoes and help adolescents, not force them down a path, but guide them along the path that they're going down. Because again, we shouldn't be angry at them for the decisions that they're making. This is what their brain is trying to accomplish right now. Find out who they are.
Absolutely. Another thing that I'd like to touch upon is neuroplasticity. And this refers to the brain's ability to just adapt and continue to learn well throughout our lifetimes. I think we have a pal here who knows a little bit something about this.
Hey, Willie, what's going on? What about that plasticity? Yeah, Willie, we're just talking about plasticity and, this new understanding that just because we didn't learn something early on in life or in our education, that doesn't mean we're not able to accomplish new skills and learn new tricks later on in life.
Right. Sometimes all you need is a new learning theory or maybe a different environment. Sometimes students going through life, they close the door and close the gate on certain parts of learning. But it's important to remember that you can still open that door with better methods in new environments.
Oh man, I've been trying to figure out this science experiment for 100 years and I've given up on it. Well, Willie, I think that we could definitely take some of our theories and new strategies we've been learning, Lauren, and help you out. Maybe after this segment here, we can head over to the science lab and see if we can help you uncover.
Let's work on that.
That would be great.
Great.
All right, well, thanks, Willie. We'll see you soon.
See ya. We have one more song just to kind of close this on out for you, and it sort of summarizes everything we've talked about thus far.
All right.
When we listen to our students, we help them make improvements. By adopting new learning theories, we help them make new inquiries. Like objectivism, constructivism, behavioralism, and connectivism. Since each student learns differently, we use each theory effectively. Spark cognitive and social and moral development. We have to make a fun learning environment. We use novelty and unpredictability to increase our likability. Lessons that engage, set the learning stage. Keep up on the latest brain research to better understand our students' search. Cultivate their identity, we help them grow authentically. Thank you for being with us. Stay tuned next week.
Oh.